Now, the labels are playing dirty. Want to talk a little bit about some strings the record labels are trying to pull? So the story actually starts with Taylor Swift, who recently dropped a re-recorded version of her 2014 album 1989. It's called Taylor's Version, which is the re-recorded album itself. I'm sure you might have heard something about that legal dispute she was in a few years ago, but it was over her masters, i.e. the original recordings of her songs. Taylor Swift was in a legal dispute going against her former record label, Big Machine Records, and the owners, who were Scooter Braun and Scott Borchetta. I don't want to talk about the ins and outs of that particular story. I do, however, bring that up to say that these re-recorded versions of her albums are a response to that whole legal ordeal. You're telling me I don't own the rights to my own work that's making hundreds of millions of dollars annually for this corporation? Well, how about let me re-record my song so I can get 100% of the profit to my own work? It would have obviously been ideal if Taylor didn't have to do that, but Taylor Swift found a solution to the madness. She now has 4 different re-recorded versions of her old albums out in the world for her fans to stream, and she's planning to continue the trend. So this was such a power move from Taylor Swift to the point where it's now starting to impact how the major labels are actually doing business. So what's going on is this, right? After the record label started seeing the success Taylor Swift received through re-recording her music, they're now trying to make it harder for artists to benefit monetarily from the masters that they don't own. Because the idea is we offer you an advance, you take the advance, and we now own the majority of your work, and you don't make a dime from your own work until we recoup the size of the advance, and even then you're still gonna be getting crumbs, but that's another conversation. So that's how things end in most cases, but in this case, she said, wait, I'm not getting the biggest piece of the pie when I made the damn pie? Let me make another pie and sell that to the people who already like me, and in return, that takes away money from the corporations and puts it right back into the artist's pockets, in this case Taylor Swift. I want to check out this article from Billboard where they cover this, and this is what it says. Labels want to prevent Taylor's version-like re-recordings from ever happening again. Record companies are trying to keep artists from re-recording their songs for longer periods, and in some cases, ever again. While Taylor Swift has been racking up billions of streams with updated Taylor's Version re-recordings of her original hits over the past couple years, making cultural moments out of old material and simultaneously driving down the value of those original recordings that were sold away from her, record companies have been working to prohibit this sort of thing from happening again. The major labels, Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, have recently overhauled contracts for new signees, according to top music attorneys. Some demanding artists wait an unprecedented 10, 15, or even 30 years to re-record releases after departing their record companies. The first time I saw it, and this is an industry attorney speaking on this, he says, the first time I saw it, I tried to get rid of it entirely. I was just like, what is this? This is strange. Why would we agree to further restrictions than we've agreed to in the past with the same label? And that is a great point. So they're literally switching up the contracts as a result of the success Taylor Swift is getting. And this is not so much about Taylor Swift herself as it is about what this means for the average artist out there. First of all, I'm not sure if you missed it or not, but you probably did, so let me read that sentence for you again. The major labels, Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, and Warner Music Group, have recently overhauled contracts for new signees, some demanding artists wait an unprecedented 10, 15, or even 30 years to re-record releases after departing their record companies. So they're essentially trying to make it harder for artists to eat off of their own work because they don't benefit from the artists eating from their own work. That's what's going on, right? Just looking at the Taylor Swift case, since she didn't own the rights to all of her older work, she managed to find a way through it by recreating her own work, and she now owns 100% of this other pie. And her fans, the Swifties, will gladly stream it. That's exactly what they did, because the re-recorded version that she released ended up selling more than 500,000 in the first 3 days of it being out, and this is what they don't want other artists to do. For decades, standard major label recording contracts stated artists had to wait for the latter of 2 periods to expire before they could put out re-recorded versions, Swift style. It could have been 5 to 7 years from the release date of the original, or 2 years after the contract expired. Today, attorneys are receiving label contracts that expand that period to 10 or 15 years or more. Damn, they're greedy. And the attorneys are pushing back, like they should. it becomes one of a multitude of items you're fighting. So these restrictions are obviously being enforced by the labels contractually, and I'm happy that industry lawyers are speaking out about this, because at the end of the day, the only thing that's in between an artist getting what they want is a lawyer who can communicate that for them and put it in a contract. And once you sign that, you already know what you're getting yourself into, so ain't no complaining about my label 5 years from now, right? The thing about this, by the way, is the fact that I think in the end, the labels are gonna get their way, because most artists actually want to sign. So it's gonna be hard to resist jumping on it when it's right in front of you. Did you guys know that J. Cole didn't even read his contract when he first signed with Roc Nation? I'm sure you might be surprised by that, but that's actually true. For most artists, the end all be all is signing that record deal. Why? Because on the other end of signing, you have a fully developed system and infrastructure in place that's for the taking. And that's on top of the network signing to that label will offer. So yeah, most artists are unfortunately gonna sign these contracts with these new industry restrictions. And that's the cold hard truth. I just want to add this though, just because most are gonna do it doesn't mean you have to do it if you're listening to this. Anyone who's an artist and is listening to this right now, always keep in mind that your unique trajectory and what the masses are doing is not connected at all because you're not them. Also want to say this, once something becomes the standard in terms of how things are done, it's going to be very hard to break the pattern, because artists being so comfortable with signing a contract that does not favor their career is only possible because it's a pattern that's been ingrained into the music industry. Artists have for over 30 to 40 years been signing these types of contracts. Now, what kind of precedent does that set? Well, obviously one that doesn't benefit the artist. As for this topic and what it really means for the grand scheme perspective, well, first of all, and this is something I've spoken about in the past, one of the biggest issues in the music industry right now, I think, is the fact that the majority of artists are still unaware of their own value. And this is highly relevant to the story we're talking about right now, because let's look at Taylor Swift. Why do you think Taylor Swift managed to pull this off? Aside from the fact that she's an A1 businesswoman and has access to literally the best lawyers on the planet, the deeper reason as to why she pulled this off is because she knows her value. Taylor Swift knows the worth of her brand and the worth of her audience's attention. And so she wasn't afraid of sticking her hand into the bowl and taking exactly what she felt like she deserved, which is to profit from her own work, right? That's the least she can do, and that's what she did, and she succeeded. Yes, as a response to a legal dispute, but the reason doesn't really matter. The outcome, however, does. The fact that she made a move that's literally making the record labels say, we can't have this as a possibility for other artists because that would mean hundreds of millions of dollars that we lose out on. So let's change these contracts, shall we? Taylor Swift is literally generating billions of streams from these re-recorded albums that she owns 100% of. Now, we are talking about one of the biggest names in music, if not the biggest, so that's why the end result is so grand. But instead of just looking at Taylor Swift, look at what kind of message this sends to all the artists in the industry and the effect this one move she made could have on the industry as a whole. So that's why the record labels are playing dirty. Their language isn't art or music, their language is revenue, and anything that threatens that shall be dealt with. What did Future say? It's an evil world we live in? Not really. It's strictly business. Anyway, any thoughts on this topic? I think Taylor Swift broke the matrix right in front of her eyes, and the industry is now trying to stop other artists from doing the same thing. Curious to hear what you have to say about this topic though. Definitely let me know in the comment section below, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.